The National Freedom Party is reportedly pushing to have a controversial anti-parasitic drug approved for the treatment of COVID-19 in South Africa. Ivermectin is used for treating parasites in animals. It's also used to treat tropical diseases in humans as well as scabies and head lice. The South African Health Products Regulatory Authority warns the drug isn't approved for use in treating the coronavirus. I'm joined by the organization's Boitumelo, Semete-Makokotlela. Thank you very much, Boitumelo, for joining us. You're live on eNCA. Now, first of all, explain to us why people would think that this drug would help humans fight the coronavirus when it's actually meant for vets to actually give it to animals.
Sure. No, thank you very much, and thanks for having us on your show. So the interest really stems from this drug being considered for repurposing. So there's been some laboratory studies that have been considered and have shown that this is a drug that could be effective for the treatment of COVID, when the lab studies were done. Subsequently, there were some clinical trials that were conducted, and there's information that is in the public, however not in peer-reviewed journals, that has done some analysis of these clinical trials. So from that data, it seemed there's a positive trend in terms of this drug showing some clinical benefit. However, even the scientist who reviewed this, Dr. Hill, indicates that there are some gaps with those clinical studies, and they will be reviewing more clinical studies, in the next few days. So as regulators, we are waiting more data on this, and it's expected that we should have this by the end of January. So that's why there's all this interest around this drug. And again, the whole notion of repurposing drugs, it's not new. It's been done before. We've even seen it with other drugs such as remdesivir, that repurposing is indeed something that is considered.
So are you saying that as SAPRA, you're not necessarily saying no to repurposing the drug, you're just saying that the study should be completed first to see if it actually is good for human consumption?
So indeed, so what we're saying is there's insufficient data for us to be able to say this drug is safe enough at, even around the dosages. It's unclear what dose should be administered. So we don't have sufficient data that confirms its safety and its clinical efficacy for treatment or even for the prevention of COVID-19. So what we're saying as SAPRA is we're encouraging clinical trials to be conducted. So as we speak, there isn't a clinical trial ongoing in South Africa. We'd like to urge, the researchers, the scientists, and the medical practitioners to put together a clinical trial, and we will review the study expeditiously as SAPRA to ensure that we can get sufficient data, because this is a drug that we can, if we do have sufficient information on it, make it available even under Section 21, which is our emergency use authorization in South Africa.
In layman's terms, Boitumelo, what would you say is it that this specific drug does that has made people think that it's the answer to our problems right now?
Sure. So what it does in the lab studies that were conducted, because again it's an anti-viral drug, and as indicated, this is an old drug. It's been used in the veterinary sector. From its activity, it has been shown that it could, minimize, in the specific study, for example, it was indicated that it could lead to reduction in the stay in hospital. It was indicated that it could have clinical benefit. However, again, these were really, really small studies. So typically for you to determine the efficacy of a product, you need phase 3 clinical trials, which require large numbers, thousands of patients, and there's all these studies that are ongoing across the world. So that's what we need to look at.
How readily available is this drug at the moment? I know that you say that it's an old drug that has been in the market for quite some time. How easily can people get this drug? Is it something that needs to be prescribed?
Yes, so it's not a drug that, it shouldn't be easily available, because in South Africa, this is a drug that is registered for use under Act 36, which is an act under the Department of Agriculture, because it's utilized for veterinary indications. For human indications, we have also in the past as SAHPRA issued Section 21 authorization for the treatment of head lice and scabies. So it is an available drug for these indications. But the minute it's used for any other indication outside of these, it becomes then a drug that we would consider as SAHPRA for unlawful users. And once then this drug could be either registered or made available through Section 21, it is a drug that could be available. It's manufactured in a number of countries. We also have some countries across the world wherein it is registered for human use for specific indications, but it's not registered in South Africa.
My last question to you, Boitumelo, is obviously it has to do with the answers that we so dearly need to this COVID-19 pandemic, the vaccine. A lot of health experts are saying that there hasn't been any formal communication in terms of us receiving a vaccine in South Africa. Has SAHPRA, as the regulatory authority that allows for certain medicines or all medicines to be sold in our shores, have you said yes to any of the candidates giving vaccines around the world to come and distribute vaccines here in our country yet?
Sure, thanks for that question. So we've engaged with a number of companies that most of you are aware of, who have developed these clinical trials, in the likes of Pfizer, AstraZeneca, J&J, and we are at, some of them are at a very advanced stage of submitting their, what we would call in their dossier for authorization by SAHPRA. But there's two mechanisms that are being considered. One would be, a possible what we call emergency use, and the Department of Health is also involved in those discussions. And then there's also the full registrations. So we are currently busy with the review of some of these applications that we've received, and we hope that we would be able to authorize these in the next few weeks or so. So there's a lot of work that's happening in the background, and we've applied what we call a rolling review, wherein the data that is available was submitted to us in some instances even in December, and as they get more data, we continue to review. So at the moment, there is no vaccine that we've authorized, but we do have some that have submitted, and we have some that we've engaged with and will be submitting in the next few weeks or so.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you very much. Boitumelo Semete-Makokotlela from the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority.